All right, let's talk about what rhetoric is. And I wanted to talk about rhetoric in a context that makes sense to all of us. And so we're going to talk about how rhetoric applies to things like Snapchat, social media, and different things like that. So when we think about Snapchat, we think about pictures, messages that we kind of just send off without thinking. But every time we send something like that, it's what we call rhetoric. Rhetoric is using language, images, text to convey a message or to achieve a specific purpose. So while your, late night snap to your bestie might seem like it's super important, it's still serving a function, and that's what makes it rhetoric. So anytime we kind of write something for an audience, it's considered rhetoric, and we are the speaker. So over on the right, I kind of have an illustration of how it works. So the speaker, so if I'm sending the Snapchat, I'm the speaker, and I'm going to send it to the audience, which, could be my friend, my parent, my niece. I'm sending it to them to achieve a purpose. Now, hopefully, when they get the message, they're going to help me achieve that same purpose, right? So an idea occurs to me as a speaker, and I decide that I need to accomplish something. It might be as simple as I need to check what time dinner is with my parent, right? I then craft the message, the snap, the social media post in hopes of achieving that purpose by sending it to the appropriate audience. And then, like I said, that audience ideally helps me achieve the purpose. Those three things, speaker, audience, purpose, are the first pieces of what we call a rhetorical situation. A rhetorical situation is really any text or message being sent and all of the context and things surrounding it. So they're kind of part of the rhetorical situation, kind of the fundamental parts. So let's look at an example. So this is actually a screenshot from a text message between me and Mrs. Karnick. And I sent her something I saw on Twitter. So it says, Daisy Buchanan after everything goes down with Gatsby. And then it has the I'm a head out meme with SpongeBob, to which Mrs. Karnick sent the Nicolas Cage GIF, whatever you prefer, saying triggered. So context for this, me and Mrs. Karnick have an ongoing feud about the character Daisy in The Great Gatsby. It's very heated. We argue about it all the time. And so in this case, I'm the speaker because I'm the one that sent her the Twitter post. Karnick is my audience, and my purpose is to reignite a nonsensical feud. So, to kind of poke the bear, so to speak, knowing it's going to not seriously upset her, but that I'm going to get a reaction. So my purpose in this is I'm trying to get that reaction, right? So that's kind of how the rhetorical situation works. I want to get a rise out of Mrs. Karnick, so I send her the screenshot from Twitter. Let's look at a few other ones. So the purpose for this one, it's just a message that says, when, where are we meeting tonight? If that's from me, I'm the speaker, and I'm sending it to my friend, to whoever I'm meeting up with that night, right? In that case, the purpose is pretty straightforward. I want to clarify plans. Now, sometimes it's more complicated than that. Like if you read a passage for rhetorical analysis in this class, you read a speech, the speaker audience is a little bit more complicated, but the purpose is actually a lot more complicated because there's a lot of nuance and things that you kind of got to pick up from the text. But this one, pretty straightforward. The purpose is pretty clear. Let's look at another one. So this one is a screenshot from a snap. I just found it online. I didn't take it myself. But it says 3 signs you need to reevaluate your life choices. He has socks with his Crocs and an ankle bracelet, so for home arrest or limited freedom, okay? So the purpose behind this, depending on who the sender is and who the receiver is probably to make that person laugh. There might be more complexity to that. Maybe they're sending it to someone who wears Crocs themselves and they're trying to get them to stop wearing Crocs, right? And that's things that I figure out when I think about the speaker and the audience and who they are and the relationship between them. But the purpose is probably, in a general sense, to make somebody laugh. Okay, another one. This one I'm using the highlighted snap. Fave thing about you is how you always have a smile on your face, even though everything is not perfect. Again, a generic purpose would be to compliment the audience, but there are other aspects of the rhetorical situation that we can look at. So if we're thinking about the audience here, maybe the speaker knows that audience member is having a tough time. And so not only are they trying to compliment them, but they're also trying to lift their spirits, something like that. Maybe if it's a guy sending it to someone they're interested in, they might be saying it in order to like flatter, in order to start a relationship, right? So those things we need to know the speaker and audience for the purpose, but just based on the surface value, we can tell that this is a compliment. Now, when we're looking at a text, we want to know more about that speaker, more about that audience, other context, and that's that rhetorical situation I was talking about before. All of those factors that kind of determine what the purpose is. So I have another one. This is a Twitter post from President Biden, and it says, "Thanks for stopping by, Olivia, and for using your voice to urge young people to get vaccinated. If we all do our part and get the COVID-19 vaccine, we can defeat this virus once and for all. Let's do this." So let's think speaker, audience, purpose. This one's a little bit more complicated because it's not an outright, pretty clear purpose. But let's think about the speaker. So the speaker is President Biden. We know that he is currently president. We know that he is advocating for vaccinations pretty strongly. We know that he is pro-vaccine, things like that. The audience, in this case, is kind of multiple parts, which we'll talk about when we talk about direct and indirect audience. But if we think in general, where his literal audience is anyone who follows his Twitter account, right? Or anyone who sees a retweet of this. But in particular, if we think about who's in the image with him, Olivia Rodrigo, we can infer that he's really targeting this specifically at young people, right? Because they're going to know who she is. She's the one that's kind of making it look cool, right? So that's how we can kind of infer a little bit more about the audience and be a little bit more specific. So if that's the case, President Biden is talking to young people, we can kind of piece it together and analyze that to come to the conclusion that his purpose is to get young people vaccinated, right? That is what he's trying to do by using a popular musician in that demographic and sending it out on his Twitter account. We know that because we know what he cares about, what he values, and then obviously, like I said, we can infer from his message who that target audience is. So, for your assignment, I'd like you to find a snap, a tweet, Instagram post, Facebook story, something, YouTube video even, could be a text message, and I want you to complete the Rhetoric of a Snap activity. It's going to ask you the same thing. Who is the speaker and what do you know about them? Who is the audience that it was intended for? And using those, what was the purpose? It can be something of your own. It can be something someone sent you. It can be something you find online. But the goal is to start practicing the analysis of that rhetorical situation by picking out speaker, audience, and purpose.